Now, welcome back to the C Morning Show with S&C today. And we have said we're going to have some great talk shows today. And we'll start with this one. The agricultural commodity market is essential right here in Indonesia. And unfortunately, millions of smallholder farmers, suppliers, and sellers face financial issues, although the agricultural sector is the most popular sector in the country. Now, they have yet to make full advantage from their sales, especially since they don't utilize technology or have yet to start utilizing technology to run their businesses.
Now, the rise of digitalization can actually improve the agricultural sector by helping businesses through digital platforms.
Now, what risks and challenges are associated with startups in the agricultural sector? To know more about this issue, we're now joined by Pasar Mikro CEO and co-founder, Pak Dien Wong, live in the studio. Good morning, Pak Wong. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning. Hi.
Thank you so much. So straight away the question, we have spoken, behind the scenes just now a little bit to get to know, Pasar Mikro, but in regards to your opinion about what's happening in Indonesia, this is one of the reasons why you started, right, at Pasar Mikro. As an agrarian country, Indonesia relies on agricultural sector for economic growth, but many farmers and sellers find it difficult to develop their business and implement their ideas as well. How do you find solutions to help the agricultural community specifically?
So honestly, maybe there is no we call as a silver bullet, one solution for all.
Right.
So that's part of the puzzles. But Indonesia is, our DNA, the farmers are small, the smallholders. That's very challenging. They are very fragmented and there are so many of them. And we've seen that for this whole years, they are always very conventional when they are doing the trading. And of course, with the other activities, but on the trade, it's always conventional.
Right.
It's difficult. So we've seen that the digital is the one way to make the change. So I think this is the change. This is the start to connect them to the digital in this era of all of the e-commerces and everything.
Right. Now, as you've mentioned, and as we know, some agricultural communities consist of smallholder farmers, suppliers, and also traders. And they have expressed, as you said also, that they are facing this problem because of the supply chain and the prices and fluctuations, which is why that inspired you to start at this 2 years ago,
yes,
right?
It is.
Now, so far, having this ongoing for 2 years, what are some of the problems that you have faced and how do you solve them?
Okay. So interestingly, some of them, the farmers sometimes got the payment late. That's what we see. That's very painful for them.
Yes.
So we make this, first is a trading platform to connect them with the buyers. And then we also make sure that the buyer, because it's like an e-commerce, before there is no platform in the middle. So with the e-commerce model, we make sure that payment is made.
Right.
And once it's all the data digitally there, we can start to see the turnover, how much the farmers can make and how much the supplier can do. And with all of this data coming to the platform, we can do trade finance here. Financing can come, and financing will help that the payment also get timely to the farmers as well.
Well, that certainly is very important. I mean, their entire livelihoods depend on it, and conventional sometimes make it very difficult for payment on time.
Yes.
And that certainly is. So talk to us a little bit about the business model of agricultural startups in Indonesia, because when you think about a lot of startups that have been running for a couple of years, they are facing some issues, and we've heard a lot recently also in the agricultural startups that had to lay off employees, or even they had to close their doors. What kind of business model, according to your experience, is sustainable to keep your startups running?
I see. So I cannot speak on behalf of others for sure, and I think they are also doing jobs in the other segments. So there are a lot of other segments in agriculture. They do a lot of in the retail space, which is facing to us, especially during the pandemic. They help us to deliver the goods. And then there are some people actually playing the midstream, which is catering for the restaurant or to the market and so on. So we choose more upstream, which is closer to the farmers, where currently there is no much player here, and this is also very much complex and the missing piece of the whole supply chain puzzle. And then maybe to relate to your comments, I guess right now what we do is trying to have a always sustainable business in mind. So that's why to make the company last longer as much as
Right.
possible.
Now, speaking of Pasar Micro itself, can you tell us a little bit about your company, maybe a little background of it for our viewers at home who's wondering? And because me personally, I've never really looked into agricultural startups, let alone apps, right? So maybe you can share with us a little bit about the company and what your main focus is, and potentially what your goal is for 2023.
Okay. So like I said in the beginning of the segment that farmers are typically small and fragmented.
Yeah.
So we want them being connected to the digital.
Right.
The question is how, because it's very difficult to
Yeah.
get them onboarded. But we've seen that if they never been connected, then it's very hard to tackle the supply chain as well. So
That's
this is the egg and chicken problems. So we've seen that one of the pain points is the payment. So we go there if we can tap the trading of the farmers and the trader every day, and we got the data, then we can start to help them more. First with the financing, but once they are on the nodes on the platform and all connected, you can imagine that one day if you need 1 kilo of rice, for example, and there are like 1,000 of you asking the same like 1 kilo of rice, so there's a demand of like 1 ton of rice, or maybe 10 tons or 100 tons. And when they're connected, they can bid for your needs. Because there are like 10 tons, maybe there are like 2 farmers, they would like to deliver their crops to you, 5 each. But if they're like 100, so we can connect 50 of them, for example. So that's the idea, and we want to make it available through the digital. That's what's make it possible.
So I hear you're starting slow by building the foundations, the building blocks right now, setting it up. Right now, the people who are using your startups are the businesses to connect directly because they have the supply chain power to be able to deliver to the customers.
Exactly.
So ideally, we're so connected that we'd be able to get right straight
Yeah.
away from the farmers.
It is.
That'd be so interesting. But having that said, though, I wanted to ask. Connectivity is sort of a luxury. We're talking about, high end. I'm not
That's
talking
true.
about high end, but startups for a lot of the micro and small farmers, and you interact with the individual farmers,
Yes.
right? How challenging is it? Because I'm just looking at the vision that you have, meaning if they become fully digitalized, it would impact their lives so greatly, right? Because of the opportunities that it would give them. But has it been challenging? What risk and challenges have showed? Did you have to come down and educate them, or were you surprised that perhaps they already had smartphones, or were there very various cases?
So I've been around in Indonesia, I think into certain area, also some of the very far area. But I seen mostly in Java. I think in one household we can see at least they have one smartphone. They don't use it like in a productive way. I think they use it mostly for communication and social media.
Yeah.
So we don't see it like doing for the trading and everything. But we've seen that they have it actually.
Yeah.
It's just a switch between to have it for other purposes and then switch to something more purposeful. That's all. But it's there.
How tough was it to convince them? And because to digitalize financing, you have to get them access to digital banking, for instance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I've hired a couple of people who work with me now from the villages and things like that. They had smartphones, but never had digital banking on their applications, for instance. And they were so surprised that, oh, this exists. I don't have to.
And this is so convenient.
And I don't have to walk around ATM to pay things So how challenging was that to convert them, if you say?
We're not yet into the digital banking, but I think against the myth, they are all actually have bank accounts.
Yes.
Yes.
It's just usually dormant.
Yeah.
And when a trader usually asks, do you want cash or transfer? If there is no pressure or there is no reason, they will always choose cash. But this time being, they have an option. If they got it in transfer, the payment gonna be faster.
Yeah.
They change the behavior.
Right.
So they're willing to switch to the digital. Imagine they're actually pressing the app by themselves.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Right.
So they independently press it and interact with the traders and then receive the money by themselves by cashless. So there's a change of behavior. So I guess with the right motivation, they're actually willing to change by themselves.
Right.
We
I
don't
like
have
that.
to force them.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Because it's motivating them for convenience
Yep.
and
Yes.
growth, right?
Benefits
Yeah,
outweigh the
benefits
cons.
too. Now, speaking of financial, Wong, your company has raised up to 2.5 million US dollars, or around 39 billion rupiahs, from a program conducted by the Communication and Informatics Ministry. Now, how does Pasar Mikro plan on utilizing that?
So that's a very unique fact about us, that we are very product or tech. So we see our farmers, and then we see that how our app can be used by them in
Yeah.
daily lives. So I spend most of the focus is also on the product itself, other than like the trading, like how much is the price and can I sell this. So we also put a lot of focus on the developing the product for them. It's different like what we use.
Yeah.
They need it to be very simple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the fonts are bigger, because if
Right.
you saw the fonts are in the WhatsApp is always the big one.
Yes,
Yes, so
You've done your research.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So we put focus there. So the money mostly goes to our operation and R&D.
Right.
We have other sources later for the working capital.
Ah,
That's
I mean,
very important, because
Yeah.
I think the way you want to get them to use the app, to convince them, to attract them, is by doing that, to make it comfortable for them
Yes.
to use
It
it,
is.
right?
yeah. How do you want to convert them per
Yeah.
se if it's not comfortable?
hard,
if it's
yeah.
Easy, yeah.
Because in the end, my goal is to connect them. So it's very important to understand and them to be willing to use the app.
Absolutely, yeah.
So my next question would be, I mean, we've spoken about the business model, so it looks like your business model is very diversified. Like you're focused, okay, these funds will go straight for the product itself, and then for working capital, you have a completely different plan for it. And I hope that will, that will cause for sustainability in the long run.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, hopefully so. But my question is, how many farmers, suppliers, and traders have you assisted through your digital platform so far?
We have more than 1,000 registered. The one that the weekly active in the weekly basis is around 300. In the weekly basis means they use it independently in at least once in a week, and some of them even use it every day.
Wow.
It's really growing.
So 1,000, the rest would be like the seasonal one. Would they go,
Yes.
would they usually use the app once they harvest, a couple of months a year, every couple of months, or?
Well, of course, many people are trying to figure out what's the application is.
Yeah.
Some people are trying, but again, despite we say that it's easy, but of course it's also not easy. That some of them that getting the habit is about those 300s. That's in the weekly. Weekly is super wonderful. Yeah, it's amazing. They're willing to press the application every day for a farmer. Our average age of the users are 40, so that's
Wow.
kind of
40,
high.
okay.
Yes.
That's actually
Average.
the actual farmer's age right now.
It is,
And that is
yes.
actually a great achievement, because knowing
Yes.
that those are usually the more resistant generation.
It is.
Yeah.
That's kudos to you.
It
Just out of curiosity, how much, if you could, for the users that are that are using it very frequently, how many percent do you think have they been able to, trade throughout the app, throughout their usages?
Mostly they can. They can trade without the app, of course, but
Yeah.
we want them to trade with app and find enlightenment. What's actually the benefits of using the app?
Right.
For example, if you see farmers, they usually owed by the traders sometimes. I mean, they don't get the payment first. So they have some kind of receipt. But once the payment they got the payment, then they just throw away the receipt, and they never have the recording of the transactions.
Right.
You
what
know?
helps them.
Yeah.
Yes. So there are a lot of homework there on the ground that first just a matter of convenience. So they don't know maybe what's the longer term purpose.
Yeah.
But once there, we want to introduce more. Hey, actually, you know how much you sell in a week, in a month, in a year.
Yeah.
So like
That's
how
the
to
process.
basics of bookkeeping that's already
Yes.
automated within
Right.
the app, and that's a big benefit.
All the data's
Amazing.
there.
It is. Yes,
Yeah.
actually, yes.
Well, do you have any hopes for the agricultural business in Indonesia that you are invested in this, and what hopes you have for the future?
We are helping the smallholders with the hope that the smallholder will survive. Because otherwise, if the smallholders didn't survive, then they will be replaced by the bigger company.
Yeah.
Right.
And so on. And our country consists of these independent family farmers.
Yes.
So that's where we want to see them stay longer. And also they will provide more diversity, biodiversity and everything, family farms.
Yes.
That's also to secure further what we call the theme as like a food security.
Yeah,
because
that's
the
very
biodiversity from the smallholder farmers.
And you know what I hope? I hope that through your app and all of these efforts and the startups, made by agricultural startups, that it will regenerate farmers as well, because it will
It is.
certainly make the younger generations more confident in
It is.
continuing the family
Motivated.
business.
And,
Yeah,
and nationwide as well.
yeah.
Yes, of course. Let them be the expert in the agriculture.
Yes.
Let me just be the IT platform for them.
Connect everyone.
Yes.
Complete it.
Yes.
You don't have to think about it.
Wong, thank you so much for being with us
Thank you
today
so
and
much,
sharing your
Brian.
story, and all the success to Pasar
Yes.
Mikro. And
Can't wait to hear more.
Yeah.
Yes. of
More
course.
achievements.
Yes,
Yes.
more achievements, please.
We
And
have another session here.
Yes.
yes, yes. And then like the third year mark, fourth year mark, you can talk to us about how much has been traded over your
Yes.
platform. That would be so great to see. I mean, is there goals? Yes?
Yes.
Well, we'll certainly have more interesting stories from Indonesia after the break, so keep it tight here with us on the C Morning Show, only on C Today.